Good evening, you're watching TKC World, where we make sense of the global events with straight facts and sharp analysis. Tonight on the show, we start with the decoding Operation Sindoor, India's bold and biggest ever response to the terror nation Pakistan after the Pahalgam terror attack. We will tell you everything that has happened so far. Then we will also tell you how Pakistan is in denial mode after India's historic Operation Sindoor. Meanwhile, the world has reacted and responded to India's military strike. What world thinks of India's strike on Pakistan? We will let you know everything on that. And finally, we decode what's next in the India-Pakistan conflict. Is war inevitable? And if war breaks out, who will win on the defense, economic and diplomatic front? We have got a full packed show for you tonight, so let's get started. It began with blood on a holiday. April 22nd was supposed to be a day of joy, families on vacation, tourists soaking in the beauty of Pahalgam. Instead, it turned into a massacre. 26 innocent lives were lost in one of the deadliest terror attacks in recent memory in our country. No warnings, no mercy, just chaos and killings on religious grounds in front of family members, in front of the wives. But this time, India did not just mourn, it responded, and it responded hard. Launched in response to the brutal April 22nd Pahalgam terror attack that claimed the lives of 26 innocent tourists, Operation Sindoor is India's answer to decades of cross-border terrorism that killed 100+ terrorists. But unlike previous operations like the 2016 Uri surgical strikes or the 2019 Balakot airstrikes, this mission wasn't limited in scope. This was different, this was bigger, and it was meant to hurt. In under 1 hour, 24 missiles struck 9 high-value terror locations across Pakistan and Pakistan-occupied Kashmir. Places like Muzaffarabad, Kotli, Bahawalpur, Rawalkot, and Sialkot were targeted. These weren't random strikes. Indian intelligence had been tracking these sites for months and months now, using satellite systems, using drones and intercepted communication systems to map out the ideological training camps, arms depots, and sleeper cells hubs operated by Jaish-e-Mohammed, Lashkar-e-Taiba, and Hizbul Mujahideen, the terror organizations operating in Pakistan. High-end weapons were used like Scalp cruise missiles and hammer bombs launched from within Indian territories were used to target hardened bunkers and multi-story terror facilities in Pakistan and Pakistan-occupied Kashmir. The strikes were synchronized, precise and most importantly, non-escalatory. Not a single Pakistani military installation was touched. The message was clear: India was targeting terror, not the Pakistani state. And that message echoed loud and clear just hours later when the official government briefing was held. But what truly made this briefing historic wasn't just what was said in this briefing, but who said it. For the first time in Indian military history, a high-level security briefing on a cross-border operation was led by 2 women officers, one Hindu and one Muslim. That image alone sends a powerful counter-narrative to Pakistan's long-standing strategy, the strategy that tries to divide India along religious lines. The very women Pakistani proxies have tried to traumatize, the mothers, the daughters and wives, now the ones delivering justice. It was symbolic, it was defiant, and it was unifying. And unity was in the mood across country. In a rare display of bipartisan solidarity, every major political party from Congress to Aam Aadmi Party to Shiv Sena publicly backed the government's action. Leaders often disagree, but the leaders who often disagree on everything came together to praise the armed forces and condemned terrorism in one way. Pakistan has gambled on another card. If religion did not divide India, perhaps political chaos would. But yet again, that plan failed terribly. India stood united, and inside the walls of power, the message was no different. In an emergency cabinet meeting following the operation, the Prime Minister of country, Prime Minister Narendra Modi, called this, and I quote, a proud moment for the entire nation. And yes, it is a proud moment. He emphasized that India had not only avenged the lives lost in Pahalgam, but has also taken a bold step towards dismantling terror infrastructure at its roots. Later in the day, he met with the President of India to formally brief her and also called an all-party meeting scheduled for May 8 tomorrow. The aim to keep all political voices on board and updated, a sign of mature governance during sensitive times in the country. Meanwhile, across the country, something else is quietly underway. Mock drills, yes. Emergency preparedness exercises are now being conducted in major cities and border areas, from Delhi to Amritsar, to prepare citizens, to prepare civilians for any retaliatory actions or cross-border tensions that could happen in times to come. Schools are being briefed, hospitals put on alert, and key infrastructure is being assessed for resilience. This isn't panic, this is preparation, and Prime Minister Modi is taking no chances. He has postponed his upcoming foreign visits to Croatia, the Netherlands, and Norway, where he was expected to co chair the India Nordic Summit. Instead, he is now chairing high level security and strategy meetings around the clock in the country. What is the message? The message here is unmistakable, clear. India's leadership is focused, grounded, and staying home to ensure national security remains top priority. But not all is quiet. Just hours after India's strike, Pakistan retaliated with indiscriminate shelling along the line of control (LOC). Targeting 8 civilians were killed. Tragically, 8 civilians were killed and over 25 injured in the Karnah area of Jammu and Kashmir, Kupwara district. Yet, even in response, the Indian army maintained professionalism, maintained restraint, targeting only Pakistani positions, firing across the border. To add to the impact, reports now confirm that 10 members of Jaish chief Masood Azhar were killed in Bahawalpur strike. And this makes it very important, including his sister and brother-in-law. Now the message to terrorist network is very clear. No safe havens, no sacred course. And in case there were still doubts about India's intent, one phrase from the army's post-operation briefing said it all. Quote unquote, justice is served. So where does this leave us? India has just redefined the rules of engagement with Pakistan. It has shown that it won't wait for another attack to act. It has stuck now just with force, but with clarity, unity, and precision. And for every voice, foreign or domestic, that doubted India's resolve, Operation Sindoor is the answer. Because this wasn't just a mission, this was a message, and that message is loud and clear. Terror has no shelter, and India will not wait. Imagine getting punched in the face in front of a crowd and then standing up and saying, that did not hurt. That is exactly what Pakistan is doing after India's bold and brutal Operation Sindoor in Pakistan and Pakistan-occupied Kashmir. 9 terror camps were hit across Pakistan and POK, including a high-value target in Bahawalpur. But Islamabad, Pakistan, as always, is sticking to the old script. Nothing happened. Let's break it down. On May 7th, between 1 and 1:30 am, Indian forces carried out a surgical strike in response to the recent Pahalgam terror attack that killed 26 civilians, 26 innocent tourists. This wasn't a symbolic gesture, it was calculated, coordinated assault. The targets carefully identified terror training sites. No civilian zones, no Pakistani army installations, just the machinery of cross-border terrorism was targeted. Within hours, Indian intelligence sources confirmed that 10 members of Jaish-e-Mohammed chief Masood Azhar were killed, including his sister and brother-in-law. This is the whole picture. For years, India has accused Pakistan of sheltering Azhar. This strike sent a clear message: no one is off limits anymore, not even blood relatives of terror masterminds that have been disturbing Indian peace. Meanwhile, in Islamabad, in Pakistan, the reaction was anything but defiant. A cabinet meeting was held, no angry rhetoric, no counter threats, just glum, shell-shocked faces. Ministers sat silent, their expressions more telling than any press release. It was a moment of internal crisis, not just over the strike itself, but the fact that they never saw it coming. And yet, the Pakistani military spokesperson released a statement. What is this ironic statement? Let me quote: "No Indian aircraft entered our airspace." But in the same breath, he claimed Pakistan has responded appropriately. So, which is it? Did India not strike at all? Or did you retaliate for something that did not happen? The contradiction did not stop there. Keep with me on that. Soon, pro government influencers literally flooded social media with recycled footage, recycled videos, fake footage from past conflicts, and even old clips from video games claiming they were living the live visuals of Pakistan's retaliation. Most of them were quickly debunked by independent fact checkers, but the goal wasn't accuracy. You know what the goal was? The goal was narrative control. On the ground, the reality looked quite different, very different. The Pakistan Stock Exchange plunged the following morning. The KSE, Karachi Stock Exchange 100 index, saw a sharp fall not because of the economic data, but because investors sensed the panic behind the scenes. A country that cannot protect its own strategic assets and then denies that anything happened, inspires zero confidence in the investors, zero confidence. In short, Pakistan's strategy has been denial mixed with distraction. This is their strategy: denial plus distraction. But neither seems to be working at this time. Even within Pakistan's elite circles, military analysts, retired generals, and media insiders are whispering one thing loud and clear: this was different, quote unquote. It wasn't just a cross border message, it was a change in India's doctrine to deal with Pakistan. A line crossed, a red line redefined. Does this mean going forward? Important question. India has shown it's willing to go beyond the usual playbook: precision, surprise, and escalation control, all baked into one operation. And unlike past strikes that triggered days of gymnosum, this one was quite clinical and deeply targeted. As for Pakistan, the optics are grim, the government appears clueless, literally clueless, the military is spilling contradictions and theories, and the public caught between confusion and conspiracy theories. Dear viewers, Operation Sindoor may be over, but its message is still echoing loud and clear across the world, and the message is: terror centuries are no longer untouchable, and denial will not save you from India. As India's Operation Sindoor dismantled terrorist sites in Pakistan and its occupied territories, the world's most powerful nations are now stepping in and reacting to this whole situation. Dear viewers, it is important to understand how the world is responding to this operation by India, because it shows India's diplomatic and soft power, India's diplomatic goodwill that we have developed over the years. India's targeted attack on terror camps in retaliation for the deadly Pahalgam terror attack have left at least 100 terrorists dead. Pakistan, in response, claimed to have struck India's positions and drowned multiple Indian jets, an assertion, a claim that Pakistan has not been able to prove as of now. Amid all this situation, global powers have started to react. China, Pakistan's closest ally, walked a diplomatic tightrope. Beijing expressed regret over India's military reaction while calling on both countries to remain calm and restrained. Though China reiterated its opposition to terrorism, it stopped short of condemning either party, a typical move in its new balanced approach in the subcontinent. China is changing its stance. France took a more nuanced tone. While acknowledging India's right to self-defense, its foreign minister cautioned against any further escalation and focused and emphasized that protection of civilians is important, a subtle note of support for India's anti-terror stance, but with a firm plea for peace in the area. Then comes Israel, as expected, came out strongly in support of India. Ambassador Azar posted, and I quote, "Terrorists should know there is no place to hide. Israel supports India's right to self-defense." This statement reflects the deepening security cooperation between India and Israel, between New Delhi and Tel Aviv, especially on counterterrorism. Both countries have been working on this for quite a long time now. Then comes Japan. Japan too condemned the April 22nd terror attack in Kashmir and warned that the situation could spiral into, and I quote, full-scale military operation. Tokyo called for immediate dialogue, urging both sides to stabilize the region through diplomacy. This is what Japan said. Then comes Russia. Now, Russia, traditionally a close partner to both India and Pakistan, expressed deep concerns, quote unquote, over the growing hostilities and called for restraint. Its statement reaffirmed opposition to any kind of terrorism in any country but avoided any direct endorsement, reflecting Putin's balancing act between New Delhi and Islamabad. But prior to this, it's very fascinating, very interesting to note that prior to this, President Putin has given full support to Prime Minister Modi. That is a big highlight. The United States was more direct, with President Trump saying they have been fighting for more than decades, for many, many decades. I hope it ends quickly. This is what he said. US officials said they were closely monitoring the situation and echoed calls for de-escalation. Senator Marco Rubio added that Washington would engage both leaderships to avoid a full-blown crisis. Then comes the United Nations that issued a grave warning. The spokesperson for Secretary General Guterres said, and I quote, "The world cannot afford a military confrontation between India and Pakistan." This is what the spokesperson for Guterres said, urging both sides to exercise maximum restraint. From Turkey and Qatar to UAE, Muslim majority nations largely accord a similar line, resolve the issue diplomatically and urgently. But Turkey did, however, call for an investigation into the original Kashmir attack, aligning with Pakistan's official position, but here also stopping short of blaming India. In short, the message from international community is loud and clear. Everyone wants calm, no one wants war, but behind these carefully worded statements lies a common thread. What is it? Most countries recognize India's right to self-defense, India's right to defend itself. Even as they fear where this tit for tat might lead next, they are acknowledging India's action. So the point is that the world understands the position that India is in. The world has finally understood, finally woken to the reality of Pakistan, and the world is with India, and Pakistan is left alone to see its fate. After India's precision missile strike under Operation Sindoor, hitting both Pakistan-administered Kashmir and deep inside Punjab province, tensions between two nuclear-armed neighbors, two nuclear-armed countries, are at all-time high, highest in the recent years. But with the diplomatic ties unraveling and militaries on high alert, there is a question on everybody's mind. The big question is war next? Defense analysts and international observers warn that the potential for full-scale conflict is very real. The May 7 strikes are India's deepest into Pakistan's heartland since the 1971 war. Please note this point, it's very important. Islamabad's decision to suspend the Shimla Agreement and conduct missile drills in response reflect how close the two countries are on the brink of war. Both governments say they don't want war, but both are also ready for war. Any further misstep could trigger a chain reaction that no one will be able to control. So if war does break out, who will win it, Pakistan or India? Let's compare both nations on the defense front first. Now, in terms of pure firepower, India holds a clear advantage. Ranked 4th in the Global Firepower Index 2025, India maintains a 1.46 million strong active force supported by over 1.15 million reserves. Pakistan, ranked 12th, has around 6,54,000 active personnel with only 5 lakh paramilitaries. India's army boasts more than 4,200 tanks and nearly 1,50,000 armed vehicles, while Pakistan lags with 2,600 tanks and slightly fewer support vehicles. No comparison. Then comes the Indian Air Force, which is far more advanced, operating over 500 fighter jets, including Rafales and Sukhoi 30 MKIs, compared to Pakistan's old 328 jets like F-16 and JF-70s. In the sea, India's 2 aircraft carriers, 18 submarines, and a fleet of 293 warships overshadows Pakistan's 121 vessel Green's water navy in every aspect. Now, nuclear weapons are a dangerous equalizer, but even there, India holds a long-range strike capacity through its Agni-V missiles with capacity of some 5,200 plus kilometers, while Pakistan's Shaneen 3 maxes out at around 2,700 kilometers. But wars aren't just fought with weapons, they are fought with money as well. It is a very important component. India's economy dwarfs Pakistan's on every front. With a GDP of 4.2 trillion versus Pakistan's 374 billion, India's war chest is over 11 times larger. Foreign exchange reserves, well, India has 688 billion. Pakistan struggles with just 15 billion, not enough to pay its own bills. While India has kept inflation in check at 4.7%, Pakistan is reeling under 23.4% inflation. Everyday essentials like rice and chicken have become luxury item in Pakistani household. People cannot afford it. India also trades nearly 17 times more than Pakistan and has a much lower unemployment rate. So simply put, Pakistan cannot afford a long war, not militarily, not definitely economically. And if conflict escalates, India is expected to receive diplomatic and possibly logistical support from partners like France, Israel, and the United States of America. It also enjoys strong defense ties with Russia. On the other hand, Pakistan will likely lean on China, and China is also maintaining a good distance from Pakistan. Turkey and possibly a few Muslim majority nations, though few may want to be drawn away from the direct confrontation. They don't want to engage in direct confrontation. Even the United Nations and major global powers have called for restraint, fearing regional instability and global economic fallout, but no one has criticized India till now. All have said that India had the very right to respond. So on this front also, Pakistan cannot win. So what is the final verdict? The final verdict is that India holds the upper hand militarily, economically, and diplomatically. If Pakistan goes to war with India, Pakistan better watch out. And dear viewers, that's all I have for you on the show tonight. I will see you tomorrow. Until then, stay safe, take care, and good night.